Everybody, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with 5 Minutes with Ben, or as I like to call it, 12 minutes and 40 seconds with Ben. This is game 11, cut. This is game 12 of the World Championship match. The score before this game was 6-5 for Gukesh. Gukesh won game 11. And Ding is white this game, and Gukesh is black. And Ding is down a point. It's a 14-game match, so I'm getting pretty close to the end. Okay, so Ding played c4, and they played another kind of ready position. And in the game that Gukesh won with white last game, Ding had played d4 relatively early, although earlier than this. He played it on move 2, and here we have it on move 4. Boy, he's really waiting to play d4. So it's sort of similar, except white can't play b4 here because the bishop can... Probably white can play b4. There's probably queen a4 check, and knight takes d4. There's probably some crazy knight e5. There's probably some crazy line where b4 is playable. Okay, but that wasn't the prep. White castled, knight c6, e3... And now, Anish Giri, when he did his recap, he said bishop e7 is a relatively new move, a new idea. And black's plan is to take on e3 and then play e5. And the goal is white never plays d4, so white has a weak d-pawn and black has a nice center. Or white does play d4 and black trades everything and vacuums the board and makes the game a draw. Okay, so that's the idea. So if white doesn't play d4, good for black. And if white does play d4, take, everybody takes everything, and then it's the same symmetrical pawn structure. Okay, so Ding chose a third option, which is to play d4 later when it's better, when there's more stuff going on. Okay, so knight c3, developing a piece. And he thought a long time about knight c3, so Ding is out of his prep. Gukesh castled in 9 seconds, so still in his prep. Then Ding made a good decision here, a strategical decision, which is to slowly but surely improve the position without playing d4 too quickly. So he plays rook e1. The rook's better on e1 than it is on f1. Puts pressure on the e-file. h6, stopping bishop g5 and knight g5. A little passive, but okay. Now, Ding did something really nice here. He played a3. And the point of a3 is to play b4, and white has a nice, queenside initiative, b5, the knight's attacked, e-pawn's hanging. So black played the more or less obvious a5, and that gives away the b5 square, which, white can play knight b5 later and just have his knight sit on b5 in black's position, getting all up in his grill. Now, again, playing in a prophylactic manner, white played h3, stopping knight g4, bishop g4. Black played bishop e6. Again, white wasn't sure what to do to improve his position, so he made a slight improvement by playing king h2. The point is, when this knight ever moves, if my bishop does anything nasty, then the h3 pawn is not attacked. Well, it is attacked, but it's defended by the king on h2. Okay, so in this position, Gukesh thought for 15 minutes, didn't know what to do, and it's not clear what black should do, because as Giri pointed out, black's pieces are all on good squares. So why would I move my black bishops and knights if they're where they belong? But white has ways to improve the position. Eventually, white's going to play rook d1 and d4, and black's queen's not going to be happy on d8. And this position, black started to waver. Black started to not play so good. Just like random legal moves that aren't very good. And probably black should play queen d7. And what Ding thought black should do is play queen d7 with the idea of rook d8, rook a to d8, and then queen c8. Then the queen's defending the b pawn, so there's no annoyance here. The black rook is opposite the white queen, so the black queen won't get in trouble. And black will have a battery with the queen and bishop on the diagonal. So he thought queen d7, rook d8, queen c8 was like an idea for black, although I guess white's still a little bit better. Okay, Ding was surprised, as were commentators, that black played rook to b8. And in this position, white played queen c2 because white wants to take the a rook and put it on d1. And in this position, although was not indicated by Ding in the press conference, black may have thought when he played rook b8, I can play knight d4, takes, knight b5 attacking the pawn. The press conference, Ding said he thought he'd play knight e4, and then takes, c5, rook here, and he wasn't sure if white was better, how much white was better, but he thought white was better. He thought it's easier to play white, which I agree with. Black e7 bishop isn't so good. White has very nice control of the e file and the e5 square in particular. Nice pawn structure for white. But that's not what the commentators thought. They thought black was intending to play knight d4 and then realized after knight b5, I mean, c5 doesn't look good. My knight's just sitting on b5, can't be kicked out. Knight's controlling a lot of squares in black's position. So they thought, Gukesh thought, bishop c5, defending the pawn, and Gukesh realized after he played rook b8, this is what the commentators thought. I'm not saying Gukesh ever thought this or realized it, but this is the commentators' reasoning for black playing rook b8 and then playing sort of slow after that also, is white can play rook e5, attacking the bishop, and knight d7 looks like a good retort because it attacks the rook and defends the bishop. But then after rook h5, which keeps an eye on the bishop, black can't move the knight, and you might say, why does black want to move the knight? Well, black wants to defend the d-pawn. The d-pawn's attacked now. White has two attackers on the d-pawn. And the knight moving would allow the queen to defend it, but the knight can't move because the bishop is under attack. And if you play queen f6 to defend your pawn, you're hanging c7. So the rook on h5 is strangely placed, but the commentators are like, so what? White's going to win a pawn. So they thought, the commentators thought, when Gukesh played rook b8, his intention was to play knight d4. Then he saw this variation with rook h5 and decided that was good for white. Ding didn't seem to see that variation because in the press conference, Ding said he would play knight e4. Possible Ding did see it and he forgot in the press conference. That's also possible. Okay, so he played rook e8. I mean, rook e8. What's rook e8 do? Okay, it puts the rook behind everything. Usually, when your rook's on the f file because you castled, you move it to the e file, it's on the e file, rawr, like rook e1. But rook e8 is just behind all of black's pieces, so that's not very helpful. So now, Ding is clearly better because he played knight b5, and his knight just sits on b5. And it's very annoying. You want to kick that knight out, but you can't. And this knight has to stay on c6 to protect this pawn. You can't play knight d4 because white has three guys on d4, so you don't have enough defense. Okay, so now black played bishop f5. It's okay. Rook a d1. Now, I don't want to say black made the losing move here, but black is close to losing after his next move. Now, if you said, hey, what should black play? I don't know. White doesn't have a threat, but white is eventually going to move the queen off of c2. probably to c3, and then play d4, and then that's annoying. Queen on d8 is like semi-trapped. Okay, and then white's going to be better because white's going to take on d4 with the knight, and the bishop on f5 is attacked. So black played knight d7, and the idea is, the knight's going to be good on c5. So white played queen d2, because that unpins the d-pawn, so we're ready to play d4 soon. Black played bishop g6, again, another sort of like nothing move. But of course, when white plays d4, which white is going to play soon, and then takes with one of the knights, probably the f knight, the bishop's under attack. So the bishop's defended on g6. So strategically, bishop g6 makes sense. Finally, white played d4. And, there's not something good for black to do. And I don't want to say the next move is the losing move, because it might be the best move. But black's position just sucks. Like, white's knight is on b5. White's rooks are in the center. Black's rook on b8, terrible. Queen on d8. The knight on d7 is pinned and attacked when the d-file opens. So, black's sort of crumpled, together there. So he played e4. And typically in this pawn structure, when black plays e4, and not here, I'm saying typically when it's not bad for black, black gets some kingside play. Black can play f5 and g5, gain some space on the king side. Nice pawn here, blocks the bishop. But in this instance, these pawns are rolling, and the e4 move gives away the f4 square. So just like yesterday, when Gukesh played knight a1, knight b3, knight c5, if you remember yesterday's game, Ding did something similar now, plays knight e1, a knight g1, and he's going to play knight e2, knight f4, which is a nice tempo gainer and really nice square for the knight. White's knights are just beautifully placed. Black played knight b6, getting his knights together, attacking the pawn on c3, on c4. Now, Ding in the press conference said he couldn't decide whether to play queen c3 or queen c2. He eventually decided on queen c3. And he said he actually overlooked bishop f6. He didn't see that black could play that. Now he can't play d5 because he's pinned. So he played queen c2, which he was happy to find. And black played a4, which is, again, not a good move. The idea of a4 is to play knight a5. And then black's knights are, sort of working together. But Ding pointed out, if black ever plays knight a5, he'll play c5 attacking the knight. The knight will probably go to d5. Then the knight on a5 is just terrible. And the a-pawn's really weak. Probably going to lose a pawn. So a4 has a good idea, knight a5, and get the knights going, but it doesn't work. So knight e2, the knight wants to go to f4. Bishop g5. In the press conference, Ding said, I was going to play h4 in this position. That was my intention. But h4 is bad. That's all he said about it. Then he says, I found knight f4. He says, now I realized my position was excellent. Yeah, black's pieces, they don't got any oomph. And white has a very simple plan, d5, d6. And then white's destroying black in the center. Black's queen is going to be under attack. And knight on b6 isn't safe, because after d5, d6, we're getting rid of the c-pawn. So black's position is falling apart. Okay, so probably black has to take that knight, because that knight's, can't lose, take the bishop on g6. Ooh, it's ugly. Takes. And in this position, white's threatening c7. So black has to do something about that. Now, if I was black, I'm not saying it's a good move. I'm just saying if I was black, I'd probably play e3, because it attacks the queen and, it opens up the bishop on g6. Unfortunately, it also opens up the bishop on g2. So probably e3 is just a bad move. But, the e-pawn's weak. White's attacking the e-pawn 3 times. So Black's position's terrible. Probably lost. If two engines were playing, I'm pretty sure White would win almost every time now. Black played Rook C8 because that defends the C pawn. Okay. Queen C3, which gets rid of any of these tricks here. And now White's finally going to play D5. So White waited like 10 moves to play D4, and then White waited like 8 moves to play D5, and then White played D6, and rawr. Okay, then White's just crashing through. So here White has nice positional advantage with his center pawns, the knight on B5, the 2 bishops, the weak E4 pawn, and Black's rooks just don't do anything aggressive. Okay, Black played knight B8, which is just a sign of resignation. Now knight A7 wins the exchange, but Gukesh knows to always sack the exchange. And Liren's like, your rook's no good and my knight's great. Rawr, D5. And D6, followed by etc. And D5, D6 was followed by etc. Okay, Queen D7. And Queen D7 allows Black to play Rook D8 later and try to get his queen out of trouble. And it stops White from playing C5 later because the knight's hanging. But D6, crushing. I got nothing. I'm a commentator. I'm doing a recap of the game, but I have no suggestion for Black. You can't take the D pawn, and you can't not take the D pawn. So take the D pawn. Every move wins for White. Knight takes D6, obviously wins. Forks the rooks. Rook takes D6. Man, that's looking good too. Attacks the knight and the queen. Let's see what to do here. Okay, so he played C5. Now, if Black could cheat and make 2 moves in a row, he could play knight C6, knight D4. Although he's still in trouble after knight takes knight. But, it's something, maybe he'll play knight D4 later. Yeah, maybe, if there was a later. Okay, the game finished up pretty quickly. Knight C7, attacking the rook. Rook went to F8. And with the rook moving, it can't move on the E file because every square on the E file is defended by White. So when you move off the E file, then trump, 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 bishop takes E4. Geary and Lako pointed out B4 is also a very strong move. White's threatening to take on C5. If we take, then queen takes wins and pawn takes wins. White's crashing through. If you take en passant, then I take, and I don't know, knight A8. I don't know. This position's ridiculous. The E pawn's hanging, the B pawn's hanging, the knight's hanging. Black's knight's on B8 for some reason. Okay, so B4 was also very strong, but he took a pawn. And after knight C6, the engine was explaining bishop takes C6 is some kind of forced win. But Ding played the human move, bishop G2. Because White has the 2 bishops. White has an extra pawn on D6. Black has no counterplay. The game concluded with the players playing pretty fast because they had 5 minutes left. Rook D8, knight D5, attacking the knight on B6. They traded. Well, problem with knight D4 is when I take your C5 pawn, your knight's still no good. So he played knight B8 again. White's up 2 pawns. White has 2 bishops. White has better rooks. Black's knight on B8 is ridiculous. This game's just over. Rook C8 attacking the queen. Knight A6 developing the knight. Rawr, rook E7. Rawr, D7. Man, the truth hurts. So here Gukesh can resign. They were waiting for Gukesh to resign at some point. But he decided not to. Everything's winning for White. It's funny, if White plays bishop F1 next move, the queen's almost trapped. Man, terrible. Okay, he played rook C4 attacking the queen. Now there's 2 fun ways to win, but Ding played the boring professional way to win. fun ways to win are queen takes, rook e8. And then queen's better than a rook, but a pawn on d7 going to d8 is better than a queen. Man, you can't stop it either. So that was a fun way to win. Another fun way to win is to play rook here. And then if you take the queen, there's many ways to win. The most winning is takes, queen. Then we throw in bishop d6 check because we're masochists. Takes. This is a world championship. This isn't a simul against a beginner. So we can't, variations can't happen. They're not allowed. Okay, so those would have won. Rook e8 wins, queen c4 wins. Every move wins. Didn't just play queen e3. Now, white's threatening rook e8, which is incredibly winning. White's threatening bishop f1, which is incredibly winning. And white is incredibly winning. Gukesh played rook c2. Probably resigns is better. Bishop d6. Now, Gukesh, showing the hopelessness of his position, never played f6. And of course, if black doesn't play f6 and it's white's move, white plays rook e8. I don't care how good you are at chess. After rook e8, you know black's not doing well. Man, rook e8's good. Okay, I got nothing to say. Rook e8 is just... If you don't think rook e8 is good, then you're watching the wrong game. So black played f6 because that, defends the e8 square. Okay. Then every move wins, and if it's black's move, white's winning. But Ding finished off immediately by playing rook takes g7 check, followed by instant resignation from Gukesh. The only line that makes any sense is king takes, bishop takes, king takes, queen. And that doesn't make any sense. So after rook takes g7 check, finishing with a little cute move, then Gukesh resigned. I mean, Ding played almost perfect game that game. Gukesh seemed a little confused in the middle game how to proceed, and it looked like just a complete walkover. I mean, Ding Liren just crushed Gukesh that game. So the match is tied 6-6. Unfortunately, I won't be doing recaps the day of the games for the last two rounds, the playoffs, because I'll be in Michigan. Although, if there's playoffs, I probably will do recaps because I'll be home from Michigan Friday night, and probably the playoffs will be Friday, Saturday, something like that. Okay, tomorrow's a rest day. Tomorrow's Tuesday, so there's no game tomorrow. And then Wednesday's game 13, and there is a game 14, no matter what happens in 13, and that'll be on Thursday. So if the match is 7-7, I should be able to do recaps the day of the playoffs, assuming that happens. A crushing victory for Ding. I hope you enjoyed that game as much as Ding did, although I doubt it. I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold. This has been 5 or 10 or 15 minutes with Ben. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time with more World Championship recaps. Bye, everybody.